Okay, hi. All right, let's see if I'm doing this correctly. Hello, can you hear me okay? Okay, perfect. All right, there we go. Okay, hi, I'm Don Kennedy, Convoy Road Coffee Roasters, and tonight we're going to do a pilot of our La 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 Lattes beverage series where I'm going to teach you very easy ways to make delicious beverages at home with equipment you already have. You don't need anything fancy. And we're going to start tonight with maple cinnamon beverages because they go great with all of the traditional pies, pumpkin, pecan, and apple. And that is because maple is a fantastic flavor to have with those uh, desserts, but then also the cinnamon and the maple goes really well with the coffee itself. So tonight we're using a coffee from Flores, Indonesia. It's called Komodo Dragon. It's actually grown on the island where the Komodo dragons live, which is phenomenal. And if you look on the back of all of our origins of the month, it'll tell you what the roast profile or the flavor profiles are. And we've got molasses, vanilla, and baker's chocolate, which is going to go really well with all of our desserts. It's very mild, but it's got a good flavor, and it's going to go really great with each of the different processes that we're doing as well. So tonight to start off, I'll just take this here. Tonight to start off, we're going to do our hot maple cinnamon latte. And if you do not have a spare burner or a microwave available to you during your Thanksgiving meal, that's okay. I'm going to teach you another way to warm the milk, and we're going to just use a whisk if you don't have a frother. I'll also be teaching you how to do cold foam without any equipment other than a mason jar and a measuring cup. So let's go ahead and get started. So maple cinnamon is a classic fall flavor, and it goes really well with cinnamon and apples. So the apple pie does really well. This here is just regular cinnamon. I just have regular maple syrup. Of course, you can grab a flavored maple syrup like the bourbon if you'd like. We're going to start though first two ways. One is you can always add maple syrup right into the hot coffee to get more of a sweet flavor. Or the way I'm going to show you is we're going to add some maple syrup into our steaming milk, and that's going to give you more of a frothiness with your maple flavor. So we're going to start just with our mug. We're going to add some strong brewed coffee. This is again the Flores. And as I was saying, if you don't have an extra burner available to you because of it being Thanksgiving and everything cooking, you can actually do this by just taking your milk or your creamer. I'm going to use milk here. And I'm going to then take, I have a kettle, and stepping off camera, I'm going to take my kettle of really hot water. I'm going to pour it into the bowl. And we're going to let that hot water heat up that milk, and then we're going to froth it. There we go. So it just takes a minute or two to froth it that way. If you wanted to put the maple syrup into your latte, you would do it now to melt it down inside this coffee. To do it this way, we're just going to take about a teaspoon, and we're going to throw that right in there. And if you don't have a frother, that's fine. You can use just a regular whisk. I have the whisk here, and you can see that the milk is heating up. And I don't know if you can see that it's a little bit of a different color because the maple syrup is in there. I'm going to use the frother because I just like it that way. And then we froth the milk. So as we're frothing the milk, you can see it's getting, the texture is changing. And because we did it in the water there, it only takes a minute or two. If you can microwave your milk, that's great. If you do have a spare burner, you can do a bunch of this at a time and do several beverages at once. So instead of doing one beverage, you can line up a couple of mugs and do it a couple of different ways. All right, so we've got nice frothy regular milk, just cow's milk. You can use plant-based or whatever you want. You can see it's frothed up there really nicely. We're going to pour it into the coffee. And no, I don't do latte art. But you can see how nice and frothy and full that is. And then we're going to top that. Here we go. Get that out of the way. Top it with a little bit of cinnamon. And this is going to be great with your pecan pie and your apple pie to start. So if you're planning to serve either of those desserts, this is an excellent beverage. Very easy to do. Smells really great. And it looks beautiful. The nice thing about this, again, is you can choose to add syrup into the coffee itself to make it a little sweeter. Or like I did, I put the syrup into the milk. And you get a little bit of a lighter maple flavor, but it's very, very good. So we can do the same thing, but we can do it iced. I have friends that only drink iced coffee. I prefer iced coffee in the summer. Some people drink it year-round. We got to run upstairs and get the glass of ice that I forgot to bring down. Again, you're just going to do this at home, so you can use any jar or cup that you want. I prefer mason jars. One of the reasons is they are heat proof, and the way that I like to do my iced coffees is I shock the coffee over the ice, and a couple of different ways to do it. So while he's grabbing that, because I forgot it, a couple of things. If you're going to do the iced version, I would melt the syrup into the coffee first, and then pour that over that ice. Here we go. And then I am going to teach you how to make cold foam to go on top of it. Now, cold foam is in our book, More Than a Morning Cup, and you can just use a mason jar and shake it, and you'll still be able to get frothy cold foam. Okay, so the way you make cold foam is you're going to take some heavy whipping cream, about a quarter cup, and this has quite a bit of fat in it, and that's going to allow you to get that really good texture on it. It's like 36 to 42% fat. Then we're going to add, again, a quarter cup of milk. If you want it a little lighter, you can use a 2% milk. This is going to get pretty frothy. So we'll put it in here. You can add your maple syrup into the foam, so I'm going to do that as well. And then I'm also going to melt a little maple syrup into the coffee before I brew it, and before I make it. And the reason for that is once it's standing up to ice, believe it or not, it does slightly change the flavor of the coffee. So I have these little mason jar lids, and that looks like that. You see a little bit of the syrup in the bottom there, and you just shake it. Shake it for anywhere from 45 to 60 seconds. You do not need to have any special equipment to make a great cold foam. I like to use mason jars when I do a lot of iced coffees because they are pretty heat resistant, but you can always put a spoon in here as well to dissipate some of the heat from the iced coffee. Rinse that real quick for me. Can you rinse that for me real quick? I'm going to use that to mix it up. All right. And I'm going to have a sip of this while I'm waiting. Okay. So for this one, I am going to put the maple syrup into the coffee and melt it. I'm going to let Mike shake this for me off camera. There you go. So we'll switch. So again, we're going to add some coffee. Usually about 3/4 of a cup. So we're going to top it with a really thick cold foam. And then I'm going to melt some maple syrup. The cookbook says about 2 tablespoons, but that feels really sweet to me. I'm not a super sweet coffee person. Not that it's not good. Some people who like their iced coffees like them really sweet. Melt that in there. So my coffee, again, Komodo Dragon, has bittersweet chocolate, molasses, and vanilla. Just shake it. Keep going. I'm going to shock it over the ice. It does a couple things. The first thing is it pulls the temperature of the coffee down so that you'll start to see condensation on the glass. Then the ice will really stop melting and you won't get that really super diluted flavor. So you can see there's some condensation there. If anybody has any questions too, please don't be afraid to ask any questions that you have. All right. So this one is with the mason jar. You can see the foam there. It kind of layers on the top. Again, you can do this also with the frother, but I wanted to show you a couple of ways to do it without a lot of equipment. And you just sprinkle over the top. And there you go. This is a great iced coffee. You can see that's a great cold foam. It's sitting right there on top. You've got that maple flavor. I'll grab a straw because I forgot to grab one earlier. You've got that great maple flavor. It's going to, again, go really well. I think the iced one tastes best with the pecan pie. I just like the texture of it, and I like the texture of pecans. You can stir that up a little bit. You saw that beautiful layering. And it tastes like fall. It's phenomenal. So this one here, the hot latte, I like with the apple pie, iced with the pecan pie. And of course, we're going to do a cocktail because cocktails are some of my favorite things to make. Super simple. I'm going to show you also the cocktail can be done two different ways. One is taking the Irish whiskey, because we're going to do an Irish coffee, and you can melt the maple syrup into the shot of espresso that we're going to use. Making some room here. And then add your alcohol on top. If you have ever made a traditional Irish coffee recipe, it calls for sugar cubes. So what we're going to do is instead of the sugar cubes, we're going to add a little bit of the maple. Also, if you like to make either a cinnamon simple syrup or a regular simple syrup, you can do that as well. Completely up to you. Making a mess. So a couple things about Irish coffee is as long as you're using Irish whiskey and you have a sweetener of some kind, you know, typically that's all you need. So it's going to be the whiskey and the coffee with some sweetener. The traditional recipe again calls for sugar cubes, and we're not going to use those here. But I'm going to do it two ways because I'm also going to make a cold foam to top our whiskey and our espresso. So I do have a little bit of this left. We melted the maple syrup into it. So you'd start with an ounce, which is not quite a shot. So a shot is 1.5 ounces, but Irish coffee usually takes about an ounce. And then we're going to add our espresso with the maple syrup over it. And to be honest, if you add just a little whipped cream to this, you can stop right there. You don't have to go any further if you don't want to. But I do want to do a whipped topping. And I'm going to do it actually with the cinnamon rather than with the maple syrup because I put the maple syrup into the Irish whiskey. And one of the things about Irish whiskey, I have a couple of notes here, is the whiskey and the cinnamon are actually an excellent mix. But when you add a little bit of cinnamon to it, it is going to pull out that baker's chocolate or that vanilla. I'll just do it this way. This is why I'm in the roastery, because I don't have all my stuff set up, because I'm always a little bit behind. So I'm going to go ahead and just take whipping cream. I'm not going to make it with the milk as well. And also, you can do this with half and half. The cool thing about making drinks at home is you can have it your way. This really is Burger King. So you can decide how you want to do it. And I do have my regular whipped topping here because I'll put this on top of that. So the textures are going to be great all the way around. So I'm just going to take, I have my cinnamon in there. And I am whipping up that heavy whipping cream and the cinnamon. I'm going to top it right on top of my espresso that has the maple syrup melted in it. And I already have that 1 ounce of Irish whiskey. All right, you can see that's nice and fluffy. So I'm going to pour this up over the top. You can see it's starting to layer. I hope everybody can see that. All right. So you can see it's layered. So I have that thick foam with the cinnamon on top of the Irish coffee mix. And that right there is a fantastic dessert coffee that you can serve. It's a cocktail, it's an after dinner drink, and it was very, very simple to make. Notice I didn't really have a lot of equipment here. It's more about the technique and the flavor profiles. Let me review the flavors with you. So the pecan pie with the whiskey is also fantastic because there's the bourbon flavor, even though it's Irish whiskey, and it's a really classic pairing to have bourbon or whiskey and pecan pie. Obviously, the warm spices inside a pumpkin pie and whiskey do really well. And again, the baked apple flavor that you would get in an apple pie does great with the whiskey. So the recipes that I used, two of them are in here. One of them is our cold foam recipe inside More Than Our Morning Cup. And the latte that I made, the hot latte, is also in there. You can see that you can adapt any of these coffee recipes, hot or iced, and you can make cocktails out of them that are really a lot of fun. You can kind of make it your way. If you like a lot of maple flavor, you can melt it into the coffee. If you don't like as much maple, go ahead and put it inside of your cold foam or your whipping cream. It's going to give you a little bit of a lighter flavor with it. And just make sure that everything gets topped off with cinnamon. I didn't top off this one though, because if you look at that beautiful layer right there, that is the cinnamon whipped cream that we made. And then underneath here is the cocktail. So I have any questions at all, I can answer them for you. This is supposed to be really fun and exciting, and you can just make it at home however you want. But the flavor profiles that we're doing here will go with just about all of your Thanksgiving desserts. Over the next 4 weeks, I'll be doing La 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 Lattes. I don't even know why we named it that. On Mondays at 7, like this one here, for about 20-30 minutes. And we will be doing a bunch of different recipes. So what I put together is a La 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 Lattes basket if you want to follow along at home. And it has the recipe cards. This is the cinnamon recipe card we made today. And then we're also going to be doing a gingerbread latte, which is great with the cookies and some of the chocolates and fudges that we eat around the holidays. Peppermint mocha latte, which is so much fun. Oh, thank you, Shelly. It's a great name. Thank you. I don't know why I said it. It's a tongue twister. We are going to do a brown butter toffee latte. This is going to be on December 15th, and I'm going to teach you how to make that syrup. That one's a little more complicated because we actually make a syrup for it before we can make them. And then we have a sugared orange snuggle latte, which is going to be great with our coffee from Bolivia that has citrus notes in it. So this little basket here is going to be available. It's got our espresso beans, which you'll see us use when we do our espresso martinis. And it's got all of the coffees that we're using for each of the recipes. So if you want to know more about that, you can just let me know. But again, for the next 4 weeks, we're going to be going live every Monday night, 7 o'clock. And I'm going to teach you how to make your season a little bit brighter and a little bit easier. If you have any questions for me at all, please let me know. And all of these drinks, again, can be scaled up. So you can do one large batch of, let's say, cold foam and then top them all at once. So it's very easy for entertaining. No extra prep needed. Everything that I was able to get here today, I just got from the store. We're going to get into the more complicated stuff later. But if you just need a really easy recipe to enjoy with all of your Thanksgiving flavors, I do recommend just maple, cinnamon. Don't make it complicated, but you will wow everybody at the table. So if you don't have any questions, this is our 20-minute time. And thank you so much for joining me. I'm really looking forward to this series. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. This was our pilot because I had to figure out the technology. And hopefully we're going to go live next time on YouTube as well. So you can watch us wherever you'd like. Thank you so much, everyone who joined tonight. This is our first time doing this like this, so it was a little nerve-wracking, and I appreciate you all being here. It really made it a lot better. So take care and have a great night, and we'll see you next Monday at 7 o'clock. Bye-bye.